Welcome back to the YellowCard Vanguard channel. I'm your host, Toku from its Toku TV on Twitch. Every Monday, I'm streaming Vanguard content, and the past few Mondays, we've been brewing up clan collection lists and testing them. So, swing on by to be part of the process. We did it. Episode 24 of Clan Collection Course. Thank you all for staying with me through these 24 days. I learned a lot about the V card pool through this series, and I hope I was able to enlighten many of you on it as well. We've got one hell of a doozy for the last episode. I've saved my main clan for last, and that is Royal Paladin. Yes, Blaster Blade Simp, cringe. But can you blame me? Look at how cute Aichi is. Okay, whatever. Savior Dragon and Blaster Blade Seeker were the first cards revealed for Clan Collection, and I had an indescribable amount of hype. My brain immediately started churning deck lists, theory crafting combos from MLB Savior, Alfred Savior, Jewel Knight Savior. Unfortunately, I remember how to read, and I saw the words, "If you did not ride this turn." Every idea of building a deck that spammed force markers to then rewrite into Savior died. We were relegated to running Savior as our main and only Vanguard for fear of wasting a turn on the rewrite. I've since then spent the last 2 months inhaling copious amounts of copium, believing that there would be some uproar to remove that line and make Savior work like most other grade 3s, when your opponent is grade 3 or higher, and having it be a hard once per turn. But alas, we are here now, and we still can't ride this turn. That being said, however, I have put many hours into testing Savior lists and options, and I unironically think that though it may not be the best, it's still very good. In any case, let's find some mayo and seek tomatoes. Headlining the new support is Seeker, Savior Dragon. When you ride into Savior, you can counterblast 1 to search your deck for a Blaster Blade Seeker and call it to rear. That Blaster Blade Seeker then gains 10k for each of your force markers. And its second effect, at the end of the battle that it attacks, if you did not ride this turn, you can Soul Blast 3, send 4 cards from your drop back to deck to rewrite a Savior from deck. Very flavorful and faithful to the old Savior Dragon, and also a cute shout out to the Legion mechanic, giving Blaster Blade Seeker all the force marker power as well. Obviously, the restriction is there so you can't do heinous things like multiple Saviors in a turn, or amass an obscene amount of force markers with MLB, then rewrite into Savior for a one-shot pop. But unfortunately, this means that we are playing a vanilla turn 1 ride deck. All in all, however, Savior is pretty much still a +2 when you resolve it, and depending on the matchup, you can go very far and very long in the out-sustain and grind game. Our new grade 2 is, to no one's surprise, Blaster Blade Seeker. On placement, you can discard 1 to retire an opponent's front row rearguard. Then you can make one of your Seeker Vanguards base 2 crit if it's the same grade or less than an opponent's Vanguard. Its second effect, at the end of the battle that it attacks, if you did not ride this turn, bottom deck this card and draw 1. Honestly, a fine and fair card as well. Ditch 1 to pop and gain a crit is actually a lot of pressure. Coupled with how large Savior gets, the crit threat in the thin deck is usually enough to tide games over. Its second effect is also very decent, being able to replace itself if it's somehow still on the board going into the next turn, and to ensure a copy in deck for the Legion. What's cool about Blaster Blade Seeker is that you can call it from hand to give your first Savior drive a crit on its first swing, replace and refund the cost, then call a new one to give the new Savior a crit. This way we're always keeping up that pressure. Our new grade 1 is Knight of Warhammer Augustus. Thinly veiled as Ganslot support, when he boosts a unit with Blaster Blade in name, so either Blaster Blade or Blaster Blade Seeker, you can counterblast 1 and ditch 1 to give it both 5k and a drive. On the back row rear circle, at the end of the battle that your Vanguard attack, you can restand it. Its first effect is honestly kind of mediocre and boils down to counterblast 1, gain 5k, since that drive doesn't plus you to hand after your discard, and it really only affects things if that second card does happen to be a trigger. The second effect, however, in conjunction with Savior Dragon, lets it act as a double 8k booster for your 10k attackers, hitting 18k and thus magic numbers twice. Is it good enough though? Not sure. There's few slots in grade 1s that many grade 1s are fighting for, and I don't think Augustus makes it. Finally, we have the new Heal Guardian Innocent Ray Dragon. In my honest opinion, this card is mandatory. Going second, you are already at a disadvantage, and it's even more exacerbated while playing Savior, since you are vanilla on your first turn, attacking to a grade 3 Vanguard. I feel it's very crucial for you to guard everything early while it's easy to do so. This way you can soak up his damage on your first Savior turn and start to try and grind out afterwards. The grade 3 Heal Guardian's effect to gain defensive power aids a lot in doing so. With the new cards out of the way, let's go into the core. As previously showcased on a former YellowCard combo video, our win con is a 6-7 chain attack using Lucius and Ashley. I've since then updated the ratios and card choices from the deck list used in that combo video, but the pieces to that combo are still the same. Check out the combo video in the description below after this video to see the potential of this deck. Let's break down the cards and ratios. This will be pretty in-depth, so make sure you're comfy. First off, we have 3 copies of Ashley. Why 3 and not 4 is probably the first question that pops up to mind. Well, firstly, our soul is reserved for Thingsaver, and Ashley is only here for our final push. We would rather die than ride Ashley, so the goal is to find Ashley when we go into the latter stages of the game, not early. Between our draw for turn, Blaster Blade Seeker's tuck and draw, our first 2 drive checks, Lucius's draw, we aim to see at least 2 if not 1 going into our final turn. For her second effect, and 99 out of 100 times, Ashley will be calling a Rel from deck. We've got 4 copies of Thingsaver Dragon, namesake and avatar of the deck. Thingsaver Dragon is the Vanguard we aim to be on. Ride and die by Thingsaver. We run 4 copies for obvious reasons. 1, we need to find it for a grade 3 ride. 2, Thingsaver needs to find a Thingsaver to re-ride. And 3, extra copies of Thingsaver are the easiest cards to discard for cost and effects since we never ever want to re-ride from hand. Alongside our 4 copies of Thingsaver Dragon is 4 copies of Blaster Blade Seeker. You can juggle between 3 and 4 but never less than 3. At 4 copies, it becomes more common to do the play where both Thingsaver attacks are base 2 crit, with the added benefit of filtering itself into the deck so you can cycle back better units and triggers through Thingsaver and Rel. At 3 copies, that gives you 1 more slot in deck for a potentially more impactful card based on your personal evaluation of the deck, since you can always send the 1 copy in rotation back to deck through the Jewel Knights and Thingsaver's effects itself. On the topic of Jewel Knights, we are running 4 copies of Jewel Knight Rel. Ignore your desire to ride Blaster Blade Seeker as your grade 2. This deck's best grade 2 ride is Rel. This deck's best grade 2 attacker, outside of Superior called Blaster Blade Seeker, is Rel. If I could run 8, I would. Rel's first skill embodies everything this deck needs to do. Being able to cycle back Blaster Blade Seekers and Thingsavers into the deck to keep them in rotation, but to also soul charge on attack, provides all the resources we need to keep on going. The 5k buff makes her also a good solo attacker even without force marker buffs. Lastly, her skill to give the unit that's played over her circle an extra 10k buff makes your first Vanguard ride harder to guard, and the unit that Lucius calls over her will be an extra 10k larger as well, giving a good power distribution across the board. Imagine going first as Thingsaver and you ride Thingsaver over Rel, and you can put Force to rear and call a Blaster Blade Seeker to that force. Thingsaver is now 23k and Blaster Blade Seeker is now 30k. Even with a Heal Guardian to defensively buff your opponent's grade 2 Vanguard, Thingsaver now becomes a 2 to pass, and Blaster Blade Seeker still asks for another 15k to guard. Throw in any grade 1 boosters and it makes it even harder for your opponent. Here is my first tech unit. I have 3 copies of Knight of Conquest Wigstan. In this deck, we can effectively ignore his first line of tech, since we won't be playing Sanctuary Guard Dragon at all. What we're looking for is his second effect. Wigstan, for 1 counterblast, is hopefully our 3 extra copies of Lucius. Lucius is the best grade 1 rearguard in this deck, and we want to find him as soon as possible. Unfortunately, off the top of my head, I don't remember any generic grade 1 superior calls, so Wigstan was the best bet here. Furthermore, if shit hits the fan and we can't find Ashley, calling Wigstan off of a Lucius isn't awful either, as if we do have another counterblast open, we can make his column 18k before buffs since we can call a grade 1 behind him. This also gives us a small deck thin by 1, before our second Thingsaver swing as well, which should help us in hitting those yellow cards we all know and love. The grade 1 lineup is fairly set in stone for Thingsaver Dragon, and you'd be hard pressed to find ways to replace any of the core 12 here. Our first core grade 1 is Morvidus. I've always said that there were 2 steps to playing Thingsaver. Step 1 was to go first, and step 2 is to ride Morvidus. Morvidus is the deck's best ride, bar none. The ability to draw 1 by riding her is unparalleled in this clan, and the ability to be an onboard source of soul charge if we need to empty our counterblast is valid as well. Her flexibility is further exemplified by the fact that the draw 1 works as well, allowing us some cool Ashley plays to call a Rel over her. If I could run 12, I would. Our next grade 1 is Sisyphus. We live and die by our need to ride Thingsaver, and what better way to find Thingsaver than a grade 3 tutor? Unfortunately, we are confined to the top 5 cards of our deck, but top 5 is better than nothing. Sisylas also finds us Ashleys and Heal Guardians, which are crucial when we're playing against aggressive decks. Now, very seldom will that 5k buff comes in, since it's not exactly the best idea to choke yourself with resources without a reliable source of countercharge, which is sorely lacking in this clan, unless you're playing certain name and archetype specific cards. Thus, this card is only ever a 13k booster or attacker when you're going for a final push, or if it's early game where you know you'll be taking more damage later. Every other time, however, Sisylas is a 10k shield in your hand. Our last grade 1 is Lucius. Lucius is the card that enables the board reset and multi-attack featured in the YellowCard combo video. His effect to go into the soul doubles his slot efficiency as well. There are many plays that exist because of Lucius. Lucius on a force marker becomes a new attacker on said force marker after Thingsaver Dragon effect resolves. Lucius boosting Thingsaver can then call a new booster for the new Thingsaver. And as always, Lucius Call Ashley enables another 2 attacks for the turn. The last 3 slots in our deck goes to a new promo, Knight of Going Alone. Hararu. Knight of Going Alone? Sounds like my relationship status. Hararu, on the other hand, has 8 things that I don't. An 8-pack. He also has the effect that while he's on the rear, when a grade 2 is superior called from outside of the hand, you can soul him in to give that called unit 15k. I chose Hararu over any other grade 1 in the deck at the moment because I'm trying to shill new product, and please sponsor me, Bushiroad. But also because Hararu fulfilled a lot of conditions that I was looking for in my tech slots. Being soul charge to enable Ashley and Thingsaver, but also power distribution. Most times going second, your force markers are always going to be on the Vanguard circle, and because of that, your Ashley into rail attacks are honestly kind of pitiful. Hararu rectifies that by giving the newly called Rel an extra 15k to reach 30k pre-boost. With the boost, that's 38k, and then you can give Ashley's crit to Rel, making this attack fairly fearsome. But also, if we need it, despite how large Blaster Blade Seeker already gets in the latter stages of the game, Hararu can give him an extra 15k to break certain guard thresholds, and maybe your opponent just doesn't have enough to guard anymore. Our trigger lineup is fairly standard, 8 criticals and 4 draw triggers with the 4 grade 3 heal guardian. The grade 3 heal guardians I've already elaborated on. Whether you go first or second, you want a lot of wiggle room in the mid game, so your early game should be a lot of guarding. This Thingsaver deck has the benefit of recycling triggers, so said triggers that you're guarding with early do not feel wasted in a sense. And very seldom will this come up, but it came up in testing. Innocent Ray being an attacking trigger unit is also a boon. Against Daihozan, who rips cards when you call normal units, Innocent Ray was surprisingly a really good rearguard to call. Who knows, maybe its status as being a trigger unit that can attack will come up big in other matchups. We've chosen to run Draw Sentinels over Crit Sentinels for safety reasons. Decks in the current meta become disturbingly large, even in the early game. And although Draw Sentinels cost a card in hand, every turn we resolve Thingsaver is another +2 to hand, and in longer games, Thingsaver makes a lot of hand. We'll usually be able to afford this discard. We chose to play 8 crits over any number of vanilla draws as well, since we're looking to threaten game with crit pressure. Being able to donate critical triggers to the really large Blaster Blade Seeker is sometimes already game winning, since a base 2 crit Thingsaver already baits a PG. Now, that's my list. And this is what I think is currently best for the deck. However, there are a lot of different options you can put into the tech slots. Royal Paladin is riddled with generic good cards. Now, they are good, not great, but they suffice. One of the largest points of contention in Thingsaver right now is the inclusion or exclusion of Loading Angel. Loading Angel is by no means bad. Draw 2 is insane. I just felt that it was too restrictive. Through testing, I felt it was better to keep cards in the grip for guarding purpose, and I was not comfortable in slamming down 3 other cards just to activate Loading Angel. That being said, however, Loading Angel still does a lot of what the deck needs. It provides soul, it digs for pieces. Its only setback is that 5 or more units requirement. But maybe in a deck that you're able to think of that can play for a lot of cheap +2 board, Loading Angel can work. In the topic of +2 board, how could anyone ever forget Leverot? If we need a cheap +2 board, Leverot is here. There's a large pool of grade 2 toolbox units that exist for Royal Paladin, and Leverot can get you any one that you want. You're missing a Rel? Leverot. You want that Blaster Blade Seeker for that retire and the crit? Leverot. I've also considered the Akane and Pongal in a 3-3 ratio to replace Wigstand and Harar. Pongo is a great one that stays on board and provides soul charge as well, whereas Akane can give easy and guaranteed access to it, in comparison to Wigstand, who is not guaranteed to get you that +1, but he has a better pool of great ones to choose from if we feel like we always don't need that soul charge from Pongao. There's another cool grade 2 to play alongside Leverot, and that is Great Sage Baron. Baron is a great unit to call and forget, as he can have any grade 2 attacker hit 15k by themselves, and when the time is right, you can use that 5k buff on Thingsaver and throw an extra crit on him too. Coupled with Blaster Blade Seeker's skill, this will make Thingsaver minimum 3 crit before drive checks. The last way to consider this deck is that with how important it is to ride Thingsaver Dragon, you forego Ashley completely and play a full playset of Leverots with a wide grade 2 pool. Though I'm not convinced that this is a better ideology over using Ashley for a big final turn push, I think it is worth testing. All in all, despite the "if you did not ride" text on Thingsaver, I was pleasantly surprised at how resilient the deck was. Now, I don't believe it's anywhere near the top tier of the decks in the V Premium format, but I do believe that it is very high in the middle of the pack, and with just a little bit more support, it can definitely slide its way into the top of the meta. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this episode of Clan Collection Cores, and the series Clan Collection Cores period. And I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me on this journey. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this series in the comments down below. You can tweet to me on the Twitter at YellowCardVG, join the Discord in the description down below, or swing by the Twitch channel every Monday for some Vanguard stream. As always, this has been Toku from YellowCard Vanguard, and though I won't see you tomorrow, you're always welcome back on the channel. Toku out.